welcome to Level Up and Friends, the podcast where those of us from Level Up pick a topic of the week, and then we gather some friends to discuss it. This week we're talking about baseball, specifically the new 2020 wholly modified edition of baseball that we've got. I'm Scott, and joining me this week we have...
Greg.
What team do you like, Greg?
I don't know. Baseball's a game for everybody.
All right.
The Phillies are my team.
I figured that was going to be the Phillies.
And I'm Joe. I enjoy the Phillies just because we're in this area, but my team of choice is the San Francisco Giants.
All right.
And I'm Harry, another Phillies fan, just born and raised. But today I am also representing the Philadelphia Athletics, which is probably the most successful sports franchise in Philadelphia still, even though they haven't played here since the 1950s.
Hey, man, we got Philly fans. You got to take it where you can get it. I've grown up in I don't have a horse in this race, as it were.
Wrong sport there, Scott.
Yeah, I know. I'd prefer the Phillies to win. Just because I grew up, my dad's a big Philadelphia sports fan. My brother's a huge Cubs fan, yeah. I would like them to win. I was very happy for him when they won the World Series, which I never thought was going to happen in my life. I guess Back to the Future 2, other than that. But yeah, so this is kind of a crazy year for sports in general, and we're a week into the new season of baseball. I guess let's go over like what, now that we have, we live in this post-apocalyptic disease world where people are getting ravaged by the coronavirus. The games can't be played like normal. So we have a truncated season. There's no fans in the stands. How do you guys feel about the new season of baseball and how it's structured?
I mean, it's here. It's nice that they're playing the game. There was a lot of mistakes made to start the season up. They could have started a month plus ago. But that being said, too, with the pandemic going on, and I'm sure we'll get into it in a little bit. Like they already had the COVID already ravaged the Marlins, so having it started a month ago might have been even worse. Because that was kind of like the peak of like when it was really getting bad, and like in the Sun Belt and the West Coast. But I'm glad they're playing. I'm glad they were allowing people to opt out. I think they were, right? Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And
apparently they can opt back in.
Yeah, it's nice to have sports. Not that sports are important, but it's a nice thing to have something else to do besides like binge watching a show or, other things. But sports is, as weird as it sounds, it's not important, but it is important to a lot of people.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I'm a baseball guy. I always have been. So I have the MLB package online. I've had it when it was just audio and radio stuff, which I love.
It's still the best way to listen to a game.
I'm a radio guy through and through. But even when they weren't playing and they were supposed to be playing, because the season should have started in April, I was watching Phillies games and Giants games of each day because I was home. So I was watching that. But having it on now, it's different. It's weird. I don't mind it. Like the audio of the fans and stuff doesn't bother me pumping through. Because again, I'm a radio guy. So listening to a game, if I wasn't watching on TV, I wouldn't know there's no crowd because it's just that ambient noise. I like that little kid isn't saying, "Let's go Phillies" all the time.
Hours.
But like Greg said, there was some mistakes. I mean, not to have a contingency plan for something like that happening in Florida 3 days before the season starts, not having a plan B for Toronto, who the city said it was okay for them to play, but the country itself said, no.
Stay where you are.
You players in U.S., you can stay there. But they had no backup plan. Pennsylvania didn't want them. Like, no one wanted them, and they didn't have plans. But like Greg said, it's back. It's here. We can watch it. There's something to be said about having it on TV for those who like baseball. I know there's something going to be on TV, and every game matters because it's a shortened season. It's 60 games in 66 days. So it's a sprint right away instead of a long drawn out season, which could be good for the everything, and it could be bad. But I'm happy it's here. It's weird, but I'm happy it's here.
On the topic of the 60 games thing, I can be described at best as a casual baseball fan. Part of the reason I have trouble keeping up with it is just there's so many games, and it just goes on forever. I think having 60, or at least maybe not 60 specifically, but I think having it be a little bit shorter and sweeter, and like you said, each game counts a lot more now. I think I prefer something like that. I don't know if you guys feel the same way. I know, Joey, I know you like live, breathe, and eat baseball. So I'm sure having it all year like is more what you want. But I don't know how you guys feel about just a shorter season in general.
It's tough because they were competing with a lot of other sports. The later you go in the year, you're competing with football, and the earlier in the year, you're competing with the basketball finals and the hockey finals. And this year, now they're competing with kind of everything because everybody got pushed back. But, baseball had that golden opportunity where they could have maybe, had June, July to themselves. And, they just it fell apart because of the negotiations between the owners and the players. But, a 60-game season, it's a perfect chance for baseball to try every crazy rule change that they've been talking about for the last few years. It's like, let's just, we're going to change the extra innings rules. We're going to open up the playoff field, so that 16 teams make it. So, I mean, baseball's throwing everything at the wall to see what sticks. And, for a lot of purists, none of these changes are very good, and we could talk about that. But
get into it.
If there was ever a season where you wanted to try baseball, like just in general, try it out, see what it's like,
this would be the one.
This would be the one, because you could find a lot of great storylines in a condensed season. Every game counts as like 2.5 games or something they've been talking about in a regular season. So, getting swept by a team is a really big deal because you're losing almost like 9 games in what would be a regular season. So, it's going to be a sprint. It'll be fun to watch.
I'm going to play a little devil's advocate on that, saying they're having like all these different new rule changes now. I think it might have been the perfect time. The problem is now is that it's a shortened season. Baseball's trying to get people to watch baseball because it's a sport that's starting to lag behind other sports because it's considered boring by a lot of people. We can get to that a little bit, which I kind of want to in a little while. But But now having all these new weirder rules, especially like the man on second base at the end of or for overtime, extra innings, like the 3-pitcher rule. Like baseball at its purest is a pretty simple sport, and it's not hard to get into. And that's where I think they blew the chance at. Like if they just keep it simple, stupid, just kind of, if they want to bring people back into this sport, play as youth baseball going all the way through, I think it's the wrong time to have all these new rule changes. The only thing I could maybe say is the DH. I could kind of see that a little bit because DH has been around for a really long time, and now NL's finally going to probably adopt that in the next couple of years for long haul.
But it's not going anywhere.
Yeah, but I just don't. I don't. With all these new weird rules, I don't know if that will possibly turn new people away if there's new people watching. Like you said, because like tomorrow is the first game of basketball. The hockey season's starting up again, so it's like they missed a really good opportunity to bring people who like I said earlier, there's people who live and die sports. Having baseball being the only sport, it might have brought a ton of people back who lapsed watching because it's the only sport or only American sport that's going on right now. Because I know soccer started a little while ago and some other sports here and there, but
one of the first major.
Yeah, so I mean that's my opinion on the rule changes. Like I'm glad they're trying stuff, but I think the problem is it's just the speed of the game in general. We can get into that in a little while too, but that's my opinion on the rule changes right now.
Yeah, well, I think with the rule changes, it's hard because it's like in life, you can't please everything. Mm-hmm. So obviously we're all generally National League fans. We kind of enjoy the National League style of ball with managing and pitching and this and that. So the DH wasn't my preferred thing. Mm-hmm. But in this shortened season, I understand having it in there. Yeah. 1, for safety, 2, for, you're putting these pitchers in a spot where, and everything that's it's go, go, go. So, yeah, you have a designated hitter. It's not the worst. I don't like the men on second thing. I think that's a little like – because, I mean, all it takes is someone to hit a single out into the outfield, and you got a fast guy on second, and the game's over.
It was used 4 times over the weekend. We've only had a weekend worth of play up to this point. When this airs, it's going to be later. But it was used 4 times. All 4 games ended in the 10th inning in different ways. So it solved what baseball wanted, which was they didn't want these marathon games. But is that a lot of pitchers, one of the pitchers actually in Cleveland spoke out and said that this rule is just awful because it makes the back of a bullpen – it's very, very stressed, unnecessarily.
It's going to kill people's careers. You give up that extra hit in the 10th inning, these guys that may have had a job are going to lose it because I ain't giving up a run.
I mean, they get paid for their ERAs, their WHIP, and when they pitch one to one guy and they hit that single, that's going to kill their stats and that could lose them hundreds of thousands of dollars. But going back to what Harry said about, it's what baseball wanted, shorter games. Shortening the games in overtime is not what I want. I want shortened games or shorter games possibly in, the first inning through 9th inning. And part of that is, I think, getting back to basics. Now it's home run, strikeout, it's just get back to, like, hitting the ball, like hits. It can be long or longer, but if you keep it exciting, if you have people hitting, getting a couple hits an inning, it doesn't matter if it goes like 3 hours plus because then you're involved. But, like, when it's just strikeout after strikeout after strikeout, possible home run or here or there. It's like then when it's a 4-hour game, you're like nothing's happening on the field. It's that part's boring to me. And like even though I'm not that old, but like 80s, 90s, even the early 2000s, that the pace of play, like there's a clear reason why the pace of play is so much slower now. And they just need to get back to like learning how to hit the ball.
Yeah, that's a lost art apparently.
Which is weird.
Major thing that's needed in baseball, hitting. I don't know how to do it.
Well, I was about to say my favorite games are always the ones where it's like a pitcher's duel. Like it's
love pitchers.
Pitchers duels are the best. Yeah.
You can still have a good pitcher's duel and a long. That can still be exciting. It's just there's something I just.
I don't know. I don't know if I'm a little biased in that because my brother used to play ball like all through school and like in college and stuff, and he's a pitcher. So at a certain point, I stopped playing catch with him because he was throwing way too hot, and it scared the hell out of me. But
it hurt.
But because of that, I'm like, I appreciate like pitchers a lot more. So I really like pitcher duel games. I find them more exciting than just hitting grand slam. I mean, when you're just blasting homers and stuff. Like I find that there's an excitement to that too. Don't get me wrong. But like I find pitchers duel more interesting, where like every pitch and every swing matters. Like I think it becomes a more tense game.
And I think that's where the National League losing the DH, you lose a little something there because the pitchers now don't have to bat, and that was always considered an automatic out. When they were going up to bat, but I don't know. There was just that strategy that is just thrown out the window completely now. When you don't have to account for, oh my gosh, this is a big spot in a game. Do I pinch hit this guy? But he's throwing really well. I'm gonna miss that so much when this DH becomes a universal thing for both leagues.
Can I ask you guys a question? Because like I said, at best I'm casual. Why is there a National League and an American League? I don't understand because I know it's like that in football and stuff too. I never understood the multiple leagues within the league. Where does that come from? Like I don't get it.
It was just decided. They went, we're going to sit. No, I think it was one league started, and then someone else was like, I want to start a league myself, and then they end up playing. I mean, like in the NFL, it was that way. That there was the
American Football Conference,
right? Yeah, so it's just that's how it works, and it blends, and those lines change all the time. I mean, the Brewers, for one, are in the National League Central. When I'm growing up, for parts of times, they were an American League team. So like they juggle,
the Astros,
they move.
I don't remember that.
Most recently.
Wow.
That's why I always found it weird. I always thought it was strange.
Well, a lot of people who aren't familiar with baseball find it weird that they play by two different sets of rules.
Yeah, that too. Like
at
least in football, it's the same game.
Yeah, I mean, because when you have the World Series, I always felt like the National League was at a bit of a disadvantage because they're not built to have a DH on the team. Now, I was going back through some of the statistics, and it looks pretty even, I want to say, but and especially lately, the last few years, it's been kind of flip-flopping. But The National League isn't built with a DH in mind. So you're pulling somebody off the bench that, maybe is a pinch hitter during the season. And, you're expecting that guy to hit the home runs like a DH would for an American League team. So I don't know. It's weird that they played by two sets of rules for so long.
Yeah. And now that they try it, they're never going back.
No. And the players and the owners like it. So it's something they actually agree on. It's like one of the few things they're going to keep it.
That's the one thing that gives more players longer careers. And it gives a team like, say, the Phils, who signed Harper for 13 years. Right now, he's in his prime. He's going to be great in the field. He's going to be fine. He's going to hit. He's going to do stuff. But by year 12, he might not be that good in the field, but now you have him batting. So you have that luxury. And other teams that, maybe were missing that piece, and the only free agent they could get was like the last few years that JD Martinez, before he signed with the Red Sox. He was the big number, and that could help the team out tremendously. But he wasn't going to go to a National League team because he can't play defense.
Right.
So you're not going to put him out there and risk defense. So now that gives that option. I think that's the one I'm okay with. The 3-pitcher rule, I always thought you had a 3-batter per pitcher.
Mm-hmm.
I thought you had to no matter what, go to the 3-pitch batters. But then I heard it's 3 batters or the end of the inning.
End of the inning, yeah.
So I was like, all right, that's not as bad. Because then it's not you got one guy out, got to come back for 2 more. It makes it a little easier, but I don't see how that.
But you were talking about
it speeds up the game this much, but not really.
You were talking about people's careers. There were people who made an entire career out of being the lefty specialist for the one guy that they have to pitch to. And that was it. That was the entire reason why they were on the roster. And now those guys are kind of out of luck because they have to face three batters. I expected to see a lot more fake injuries, like the soccer injury. A guy throws to one guy, oh, my arm, I can't do it anymore.
Yeah.
But I haven't seen that happening yet.
I mean, I've been hit by a baseball. Them things hoit.
Yeah, they do. Yes, they do. I bat left-handed, and growing up, not many people batted left-handed.
I'm lefty too, Joe. Play baseball. We would, always borrow your gloves.
Yeah, so every kid who learned how to pitch learns how to throw away from a right-handed batter. But away from a right-handed batter is right in the back of a left-handed batter.
Yeah.
So I got pegged a lot.
I guess if we're talking about growing up playing baseball, what position did you guys play? I was catcher. I loved it because I had all of this armor on me so I wouldn't get hurt.
It's the most important position on the field.
Yeah. Plus, you don't have to run around nearly as much.
Yeah, but you're owning the game. You're doing the game. The game is.
Oh yeah, and you're involved in every play. I love being
calling it off.
And your knees go bad real quick.
Well, I'm paying for that now.
Yeah.
I also used to. Oh yeah, trust me. Yeah, maybe I used to blame my injuries more on hockey, but I guess being a catcher really hurt me for a little while.
It adds up.
Yeah, I mean, for me, I didn't really play organized baseball. The only time I really played was in school, and since I was not so athletic, I was usually picked last and put in left field. So that's where I kind of played.
Go ahead, Hare.
Oh, no, I played a steady right field. They were this kid's a liability. We're just going to throw him out in the outfield. And I was great with T-ball. When the ball was stationary and I just had to go up and hit, I was a star. And then when the kids started live throwing to me, I was like, Joe, I got hit a couple times, and that was it. I was ducking out of the batter's box on almost every pitch. My coach took baseball bats and put them in the box behind me so I would stop jumping out of the box. And until at a certain point we had pitching machines instead of kids actually pitching to us.
Yeah.
And once the pitching machine came in, I was good. I could hit again, but I couldn't do the live pitching.
I do love playing baseball, but it's one of those things because you need so many players. It's a hard game to just kind of spontaneously have.
True.
Now.
Yeah.
Back in the day, it was that's what you did.
Yeah, but I'm saying that's why I would play organized little league.
That's why all my gloves are still in my car.
Yeah,
I'm ready whenever.
Maybe we should play some catch.
I'm game. I'm game all the time. I played pretty much all of my youth up until sophomore year of high school, and I played all over. But generally, I was a third baseman. So I played in the infield. I was good defensive. I had a catch one year because of the team I was on. No one could throw the ball from behind the plate, being on their knees and reach second base, except me. So I had to play there. But defense was always my specialty. I was like a Brooks Robinson at third. Not that good, but my hitting was tough because I batted left-handed. Not many people could throw really well to me, but I would get on base and then I would hustle. I always called if I got pegged, which was every game. It was baseball pain, or like if you played a lot and your hand got all red right here. Because I use the same glove that I've used since I was like 13. It's like this big. It's my favorite glove, but there's no padding. My hand turns bright red or swells up. I don't care. It's baseball pain, and I'm all right with it.
Nothing better.
I mean, like you said earlier, I live, breathe the sport. I love baseball of all kinds. So
nothing better than the aluminum bat. You know, when you have those early morning practices.
Oh, you get that clunk, like, yeah.
All up your hands. Oh, good times.
All right. Well, do you guys prefer aluminum or wood?
I mean, I always play with aluminum just because that's what we always had. But
yeah, that's what I did too. But I know there's people that are like diehard wood bat guys.
I love the sound of the aluminum bat. I mean, more so than the wood. But I played, like I said, it was only like in high school and middle school, and they only had aluminum bats. So it's like, that's all I really knew.
Yeah.
I say I did know one kid that had a wood bat, but he was definitely corking it.
Uh-oh.
Yeah.
Break it open.
But earlier, to circle back to something someone said earlier, mentioned about baseball being like quote unquote boring. To talk about that, I love playing baseball. I love going to live games. It's probably my favorite sport to watch live. On TV, I find it intolerably slow. It's so little happens in between commercial breaks. Then you watch commercials for forever. Then like maybe you see like one or two more batters, and it's just like it. And because I'm on TV,
whoa! You see all three batters. They very rarely don't, unless the pitching changes.
The trouble with watching it on TV, I think, is that there's so much. It's so easy to find something much more engaging.
Well,
at the click of a button.
I kind of like. Let me ask group this too, since kind of talking about the boring, whatever else. For all four of us, what got you into baseball and when? And especially like, I think. Like me and Scott, I think the same thing. Like for now, like we'll get brought back to, but like for me, like I really didn't get into baseball. Like I remember starting like baseball in the '93 season with the Phillies because that was just awesome to watch. But even after that, like I always during that time and watching even during that time, I thought baseball was still boring. As I've gotten older, I've enjoyed it more. I think part of it is for me. Maybe I don't like as much at home, even though I do watch it more at home than I used to. But the game is really made for like conversation. Like while you're sitting there talking, you could talk to your friends, talk to your fellow like your fellow whatever they're called, the fans, and like because you don't have to be hooked on every pitch or whatever. You can talk and talk about the game. So you can do more than one thing. Where like that's like the one sport you can do that, which I really enjoy the aspect of it. Where like I can still watch the game, but I can still talk to Joe or you or Harry while the game's going on because it's not like just back and forth like hockey and basketball is. Football does it well on TV where it doesn't look like it looks like it's fast, but it's live it's pretty slow actually. Football.
Oh no, football's more boring I think than people.
But you want to talk about commercials?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. I mean,
stoppage of play every 5 seconds, penalties.
Yeah.
But I think for me, like baseball, I started liking baseball probably when I was in college, so probably like 18 to 20, where I sort of like started to appreciate the game a lot more and understanding. Like, even though I said earlier that baseball's pretty simple and the rules, like but once you understand like the little things about the game and the strategies, it gets a little more interesting. But that's also like I don't watch much baseball anymore because I said earlier, like it's just nothing happens in these games anymore. It's all about the strikeouts and the home runs, and there's no small ball, there's no slap a pitch down and move the batter to second base or third base. It's just like swing and a miss, don't swing. It's so I'm starting to not enjoy it as much as I used to.
Yeah, it's something to be said for small ball where like you keep getting 1 point ahead of each other and it's going back and forth like every run and hit, like every time someone's on a base, it's important. like that is exciting too. But yeah, I don't want to detract if you guys want to chime in about
baseball origin stories.
Yeah, baseball origin stories. I'll go last on this one.
Joe, you want to go next, or you want me to take it? Or
so I assume you just came out of the womb with a glove on.
Came
with a beard and a glove.
With 2 batting gloves on and eye paint under my eyes. No, I'll go. Why not?
Yeah.
I mean, I think I've always liked baseball. My dad played baseball as a kid, and I mean, I think that's where a lot of people start with their baseball connection or sports in general is kind of like your dad or your mom, whoever was into it that you were really into, got you into it. So my dad really likes sports and baseball and all sorts of different sports. But I remember there was a pizza place up the street from me when I was growing up that was called Boston Pizza. So when I was like real young, before I liked any other team, I had a Wade Boggs poster in my bedroom only because of that pizza place.
That's the only Boston guy you're allowed to like ever. I'm okay with Wade Boggs.
Just Wade Boggs, no one else?
No one else.
Not even what about Heathcliff Slocum?
It's a cool name, but no thank you.
Baseball name.
Well, but as it went on, I still liked baseball. I've always had the Phils around. Obviously, the '93 World Series was around. My grandfather was really into the Phillies and stuff like that. So I always had the radio with Harry and Richie Ashburn and stuff. But in '89, I was 7. That's when I fell in love with the Giants, because that's when the team was big, and my favorite player was Will Clark, Will the Thrill, batted left-handed. I could bat left-handed, so I fell in love with them. And those who know, in the '89 World Series, they played Oakland, and that's when they had the earthquake. I have a connection with Oakland from my dad when he was working at a certain job. He used to go up to the vet all the time. And he came home one day with an A's hat. It's the only reason I have an A's hat, because I just loved it as a kid. But I've loved it ever since. I love the boringness of it. It's weird, like Scott was saying earlier. I love pitching duels that nothing happens. I just love that. But I guess I was saying before, I guess we started the podcast. Currently, I have a screen right here. I have the baseball package, and I currently have 4 different games going because I'm sitting here and I can watch whatever. I've always had that. I had that before they had the TV broadcast. It was only radio. And for me, like, TV can be boring, but on this app, on the website, you can watch any team, and you can switch the audio you can have the TV broadcast, but switch it to the radio broadcast, which I love because I love Phillies radio. Like, I kid you not, I've listened to it. I have it in my car. I can listen to baseball all the time. Driving around listening to other teams, I realize how lucky we are in this area of the radio rock team we have. Larry Anderson is a gift from God. LA. He's a gift. He's so good because it kills the boringness of it, because he makes it seem like Greg was saying, you're talking with a friend or someone who's a fan, and you're just talking. That's how it is. It's not so like scripted.
Yeah, that's why I like him so much.
Yeah.
He talks like he's an announcer, but he talks like a fan.
Exactly. And it makes it so like engaging. And for me, like, the radio was it. Like, growing up when I was a kid, I had to go to bed at a certain time, wasn't allowed to have the TV on. There wasn't a computer. I didn't have a cell phone. Now my only fan was a radio. So if I went to bed early, I could turn a game on and just listen to a game. And I mean, I grew up with Richie Ashburn and, Harry Callis doing games. Like, I mean, I bust chops because I don't like the Dodgers, but it'd be like living in LA and getting to hear Vin Scully all the time. Like, you're lucky, or being in Milwaukee and getting Bob Uecker from Mr. Belvedere fame, or I'm lucky because I'm a Giants fan. I got John Miller, who used to do the radio broadcast for ESPN, and their Dwayne Kuiper and the other guy did the games for the EA's baseball games. So I've loved it forever, but I'm rambling. So Harry, what's your origin story?
No, ramble away. It's funny. You guys have a few years on me. I'm the baby of the group. I was born in '88, but Phillies fans, you know, in our household, all up and down. But the '93 World Series, I mean, I was really little, but I remember certain things, especially the sadness. Mostly the sadness.
Crushed.
Touch them all, Joe. Oh.
Mostly the sadness. And speaking of Joe's, Joe gave me a great gift one year of all the tickets from the World Series, which was awesome. Got it framed. It's actually downstairs. But so that World Series was a big part of getting me interested. But it's, you know, a lot of my story is like Joe's. My dad played when he was younger. He was a pitcher down in his area. And, you know, he got me started on all Philly sports. So he set me up for a lifetime of learning about failure and disappointment. But
you learn a lot in this area.
Yeah. All 4 Philly sports. But no,
even our horse had problems.
Baseball was a big one for me because I was playing it as a young kid, and so getting to go to the vet and seeing it at the major league level. And the park was only, you know, 45 minutes, 50 minutes away from my parents' house. It was awesome. My dad had a guy who he worked with, his boss had season tickets, and he would split them up in thirds, basically, among everybody on staff. And my dad had like a third of a season ticket package, which was really, really cool. We got to go to a lot of games that way. So I remember a lot of school nights where I was at the ballpark at, you know, 10:30, 11 o'clock. I had school the next morning. So my dad's looking at the innings and he's like, all right, well, maybe we'll leave in the 7th. Maybe we'll leave in the 8th, you know. And then if we did leave early, I'd have the radio and you know, to take me back over the Walt Whitman Bridge. So
never get better.
It was great.
I mean, like, I love, as much as a shithole it was, pardon the language, the vet was an awesome place to watch a baseball game.
I missed the vet.
Dump.
Yeah.
I mean, it was. I mean, there was some stuff I saw in the and that higher level near the video boards. I can't talk about it on, you know.
You'll never forget.
On a PG thing, but
well, you just made us PG-13 with your potty language.
Yeah, I'm sorry. And but the vet, like, I love going to the vet, like just driving up there, and it was $5 to get in or something like that. Just went to the highest pitch you can go and just hang out and be stupid with your friends. Like, they didn't care. Like, nobody cared at that point when the Phillies weren't drawing. Like, you could do whatever you wanted to do, and you would never be bothered. Good, bad, or otherwise.
Say, talking about their vet reminds me, because I went to a couple of ball games there. Like, we're way up in the nosebleeds. Like,
same here. Loved it.
But I remember going there a couple times when I was a kid with my dad, and like he would give me. There would be like those like programs or whatever you can use to like fill in the strikeouts and stuff of each inning.
Scoring a game.
Yeah, scoring a game. Like, he used to put me in charge of that and made me feel like I was involved in the game. But that was a lot of fun. But like, my origins, everyone else, my dad was into it, so I just kind of was always around it. I played, you know, you start off with the kids, you play t-ball, and like I played up through like middle school. Then I kind of like lost my taste for it. That's the part where, like, once puberty kicked in, like the people who were going to be athletically inclined kind of really shot away from the people like me that weren't. I found my sport later. If we do a hockey episode, I can talk about.
That's the sport I play too.
We can talk about that later. I wasn't good, but I was fast and would slam into things really hard. So in that game, that kind of works for you. But I remember when the Surf first opened up, I went to like every single game that they played there.
So mad.
Like the first couple seasons.
I know.
It's so sad to see that stadium now, but I'd love to go into the Surf games.
I really want. I know, not to get off a tangent, but I hope Atlantic City gets their stuff together or whatever and gets a baseball team back here again and like actually promotes it and helps like grow the fan base, because it was so much fun going to the Surf games or the Boardwalk Bullies games or the Card Sharks games, or just recently the other football team that was here. I forget what they were called.
Blackjack or something.
Blackjacks. I mean, I know the whole.
Don't forget about the Philadelphia Soul, or no, the Philadelphia Seagulls. Atlantic City Seagulls, the basketball team. That
I didn't know about that.
Oh, I used to go to Seagulls games. I remember them.
But the stadium, the Surf Stadium, was a great park to go to, and it's a shame because I would go there. I would like to go there like all the time now, just like after work or whatever. Just like I'm gonna go $5, go see a baseball game. It was bad
it was
baseball,
a lot of fun. Yeah,
and I think I can play better than some of those people on the field.
Could you play better than Pete Incaviglia?
You remember?
I think at the end I probably could.
He was one of my first favorite baseball players, Pete Incaviglia.
Just the name is awesome.
Yeah. Oh, so yeah, because Harry is the baby of the group. He would have been younger than us when that came in. Yeah,
Mickey Morandini.
Oh, I love Kevin Stocker. Love Kevin Stocker.
You said his name wrong.
Mickey Morandini.
Correct. That's the correct way of pronouncing
every syllable.
I can't remember anyone's name like in regular life, and I haven't thought about certain players in like 10 years.
Man, I'll randomly think about a player, and I'm like, oh, I gotta talk about him, and then I'm like, who would know? That's that's my favorite thing that I still get to do is my dad and I still talk about baseball, and he's the same way. Like he grew up outside of Pittsburgh, so when he was growing up, I mean, you had, Bill Mazeroski and Roberto Clemente.
I've heard of Roberto Clemente. That's an
Hall of Famers. They won some games.
Are you sure that first thing you said the Hall of Famer? I've never heard of him before.
Bill Mazeroski? Yes.
Yeah, whatever his name is.
Hit a home run to win the World Series against the Yankees. Yes, he's in the Hall of Fame. Yeah. But he'll name random players, and like I'll be like, oh yeah, I remember that. Like I threw out Heathcliff Slocum earlier. Like I think about Heathcliff Slocum all the time because it's a fun name to say, and he was really bad. But no, I don't know. Someone take it. Baseball. But scoring, that's what I want to talk. Scoring.
Yeah.
Harry is the only person that I've ever gone to a game with who I've ever seen score a game in a scorebook. And it blew me away. I was like, I love baseball, but I've never done that. And that's like amazing to me.
I don't know how to do it.
It's a lost art. And it's also a great souvenir. It's like usually $2 or $3 in a program, so it's probably one of the cheapest souvenirs you can get in a ballpark. And then at the end of the day, I have the entire record of the game that I just watched. Like I'll randomly find games that I scored like in my bookshelves because I just slipped them in, and I'm like, oh, this is what happened. Ryan Howard had 4 strikeouts this game. Great.
Let's say they're probably bad.
I have a few Roy Halladay complete games in there, which I'm like really proud of. It's like, wow, I was a witness to that. Like that was where I was, and that's cool. What happened that day. I mean, for me, it keeps me invested on every pitch and every at bat. I like to watch, what goes on. It's a problem if you have to get up and get like a concession or go to the bathroom, or if it rains. Never get up. I have plenty of
up and down the steps,
like half-finished scorecards in my collection that are like covered in like they're all rained on because it rained halfway through the game. But I do love scoring a game. It's a lost art. Greg, I will show you how to do it next time.
Sounds good. I would love it.
I remember strikeouts you write as a K, right?
Yeah,
it's backwards and forwards. One's a swinging strike. One's a looking strike. And I forget how.
I remember a little bit about
that
how
makes sense. I never thought about that.
Yeah, backwards is strikeout looking.
I would say we should all go to a game, but we can't do that anymore.
Maybe next year.
Yeah,
so 2021.
Yeah, and that's optimistic that there'll be another year.
They'll play next year.
It's not apocalyptic. It's a pandemic.
Yeah. I know.
As much as I love baseball, like I didn't go to a lot of games growing up. Like growing up, I literally would go to maybe 1 or 2 games. That's it. But usually 1, and it was usually when the Giants came into town. That's it. And then as I've gotten older, I've gone to a few more, but generally like I never go. So for me, TV was it or the radio.
We occasionally see you on TV because you went to a game randomly.
I've been in a few.
My dad will text me. He's like, is that your friend Joe? Is he at the Phillies game? And I'm like,
yeah,
oh yeah, probably.
A Cubs game. There was one game that Harry, myself, and John, our all mutual friend, where we went to an Orioles-Phillies game. Was it the Phillies? Or just the Orioles?
No, it was. If it's the story I think you're going to tell, it was the Orioles-Phillies.
Yes, and some of us were out sick from work.
Yeah.
And someone who remained nameless always talked about a coworker of his who always watches every game. And right as the game started, there's a close-up of John and Harry just standing there. I'm like, I'm like here, so I'm not in the camera shot.
So it was a business person special game?
It was, yeah, we had been talking about doing that for years. We were like, oh, we got to go to a business person special. We got to go to a business person special. The Orioles were playing the Phillies. It was a weekday game, and we were like, let's do
Baltimore.
it. In Baltimore. Let's take a road trip. Let's do it. It's not that far. Let's go. And like, there was no way I could get out of work to do it. So the day of, I felt very ill that day. But I recovered a little bit. So we went
Miraculous
to watch some
turnaround.
baseball. And I was like, you know what? It doesn't matter. Nobody's ever going to see this. It's the middle of the day.
Who's
My boss
watching it?
wouldn't let me go.
Wouldn't you know, it was like a Ferris Bueller moment where like we after the game, we went home and Joe has the package. So of course, Joe, being the baseball fan that he is, watches the game that we just attended in person.
Yeah.
And I get these texts from Joe that says, she's gonna know you were there. You were
Literally 2 seconds into it. The game didn't even start. They didn't even throw the first pitch, and there they are. Boom.
They were doing like
center.
the keys to the game and like the strategies for each team. And like John was all in his Orioles gear and I was in my Phillies gear. So naturally they were like, oh, let's put them together and let's show them for like
they're natural
2
enemies.
minutes.
Let's put them together. Yeah.
Perfect. It was
Two
magical.
uninterrupted minutes.
So I have a question also to throw out there. So talking about that, like kind of like that type of stuff. What stadium is your favorite you've been to? Which ones have are you dying to go to? Could be in place still, or ones are still around but not used for MLB. I know there can be ones that are still around.
I mean, I've only really been to a couple stadiums. I went to the Vet, but I was a kid, so I don't really know enough. I like the Sandcastle, which is where the Surf played. What's the new Philly stadium?
Citizens Bank.
Citizens Bank, right? I remember it was a bank. That one's nice. And I've been to Greg and I went and saw part of an Orioles game a couple years ago.
That was fun.
Great park.
I don't remember much because we had been drinking at the party ahead of time.
A lot. We drank a lot that day.
Yeah, I drank a lot. That was a business trip I drank a lot on.
We all did.
It's a great business trip.
I probably drank the least out of you three, but
yeah. But oh my God, anyway.
It's for another podcast.
I don't remember much about the stadium. I just remember I was like, well, it's a baseball stadium. But like the whole time I was going down there, my dad knew we were going to go to that. And he's like, oh my God, you got to go to the stadium. You got to tell me about it. You got like about the food and all these things. I'm like, it's a baseball stadium. It's all the same stuff to me. I know that.
Yeah.
Again, like I said, at best I'm casual.
Yeah.
Well, that's one of the things that I really like about baseball, and I tell people that are new to baseball, again, with the whole like different rules.
Yeah,
every stadium has different dimensions, so they're not a standard. It's not like a football field where they're always kind of like the same dimensions. The outfield has all kinds of different angles and curves and different like features. One had a flagpole like in the playable outfield space for a while until they took it out. Yeah, the hill. There was a hill.
That was
so
ridiculous.
like the Yankees played with monuments in their outfield in the old Yankee Stadium.
I mean, you have the big green monster.
Yeah,
right.
It's one of
he
there's so
gobbles
much
up the balls, right? When they come near him.
Yeah, there's so much character in a baseball stadium and park, and I think they've done a great job in recent years. Kicked off with Oriole Park at Camden Yards, with the movement to move away from these multi-purpose cookie cutter stadiums like the Vet to a more intimate ballpark experience where there's better seats. You're closer to the action, and it just feels like a baseball park. And they're like these throwbacks to the olden days when like these ballparks were in the middle of city blocks, and you just walked in and you were right there, and it was part of the community.
Say on that note, like I will say, Camden Yards where the Orioles play, the facade on the building is really cool because it just looks like part of the city.
Yeah.
And I kind of really like that because like Citizens Bank is just kind of this monstrosity out on its own.
Yeah, the Phillies get a lot of flack for building their stadium area so far away from the city. I mean, it's not really part of the city like some of these other stadiums are. But no, Camden Yards, I mean, it's really cool. They incorporated the B&O building, the old train station warehouse building, into part of their stadium. It's a feature, the warehouse. So, yeah, I mean, these stadiums all have different personality, and you'll get there's a lot of people that make a bucket list to go to all the different stadiums, and you'll see something different in each one.
My dad's been retired for a while, but that's one of the things he's been talking about doing. It's like, so my brother's really into baseball, so it would be like the two of them going on tour sometime. obviously we can't do that now, but I mean, I'd be happy for them, but like, I'm not like jealous. I'm not going. You know what I mean?
I'm jealous of your dad and brother doing that.
They haven't done it. They've been talking about that.
I want to go to so many.
Let's go, Joe. Let's go.
I'm in. Trust me.
I know. I've wanted that for a while too. Just.
I mean, I've been outside. I haven't been inside, but I've been outside Fenway, which is right in the middle of town. I haven't been to many. Like, I went to.
That's surprising.
For the longest time, the only two stadiums I went to growing up, I went to a Phillies game and a Pirates game. And at the time, the Vet and Three River Stadium were the same thing. And when I went to Pittsburgh, they were playing the Phillies. So it wasn't any different. I want to go to PNC Park because
it's really nice
of the views there. I want to go to Oracle Park, which is the Giant Stadium out in San Francisco. I don't want to go anywhere near Dodger Stadium because I'm a Giants fan and I'll get beat up.
Trying to dodge that one.
Yeah, dodge it quick. I was inside the Astrodome. They weren't playing any games, but I was in there for like a conference. And I could not tell you what they were talking about in this conference. Because I was like
looking around at everything, yeah.
All the colors of the old Astro stuff were still up there, and I was like, oh my gosh, it's like Bad News Bears too. This is amazing. Threw that in there. Someone who will be watching this podcast will get that joke and laugh.
You did get to see Mile High, right?
I did go to Mile High Stadium. I made a point when I was out in Denver for a wedding to go
Coors Field or whatever it's called.
Coors Field, yeah. That was a gorgeous stadium. I got to see the Giants play, which was really great. But no, I would love to go to every stadium. I mean, that's part of it.
Yeah, more recently I've been to a bunch of some stadiums. I mean, thankfully, like I'm lucky enough where I went to like I said, two Holy Grails. I've been to Wrigley and Fenway to see a game.
I was gonna say, I remember that.
Yeah, but I'm not a fan of Fenway. I don't think it's. I think it's nice. Like it's cool being there, but stadium is
old.
It's not conducive for what they built into it.
If you're over 6 feet, I don't know how you fit in the chairs.
Yeah, there was like the seats my wife and I got, it was literally right behind a steel girder, so we couldn't see anything. Wrigley I loved, except the concourse is so like you said, like it feels so low, but the concourse is amazing and Wrigley is absolutely amazing. So I'm lucky enough to see those two, which are probably my two, holy grails of stadiums that are still up.
They're the old guard.
Again. Was that?
It's the old guard. They're the last two.
Like I'm bummed I couldn't go to the old Yankee Stadium, whatever that was called. It was the Yankee Stadium. I don't know. But the one I want to go to right now, I'm gonna go to Milwaukee Stadium is the kind of one I want to go to next.
Yeah.
And I do want to go to Pittsburgh also because I've heard nothing but great things about Pittsburgh.
You can hit both. Head them on a trip. Drive out to Pittsburgh, go there, and then drive to Milwaukee.
I mean, Pittsburgh's definitely closer than Milwaukee.
Well, why are you going?
Some other games,
Cincinnati, and you're fine.
Yeah, like I was in St. Louis, but it wasn't baseball season.
New Busch Stadium.
Yeah, we went to like the Busch, the Anheuser-Busch, like the beer, which is fine too. But like there's been other places I've been to where it just wasn't, baseball time.
So I've been lucky to be on the coasts. Like I've done Dodger Stadium, I've done the Angel Stadium, because we were out in LA and that was just part of it. Was worked into the trip.
Nice.
Did you leave early? Did you leave the game early?
Okay, so
did you show up late and leave early?
To answer the question, we were late, but it wasn't from lack of trying. There's like one or two entrances to get into the stadium. It is the worst traffic you've ever seen in your life. And like it takes up your whole day. Like in order to make it into a game on time, you've got to leave. Like if it's a 7:00 game, you've got to get there by like 2 or 3 because you're gonna be late. You're gonna be stuck in the parking lot, stuck in traffic. But I will say, that was probably one of my favorite baseball experiences ever because that crowd was so loud for everything. And it was an exhibition game in September. The Dodgers were already going to the playoffs. And I mean, they were into every pitch, every hit, and it was 50,000 some people. It's more than what Citizens Bank can hold because it's a huge stadium. And it was great. And just to think of all the history that took place there, I had a really good time at Dodger Stadium. I'm sorry, Joe, but
I'm just glad.
traffic.
I'm just glad Utley doesn't play there anymore, so I don't have to see you wearing a Dodger hat.
Yes, I was. I did get to see Chase Utley taking at bat at Dodger Stadium the last time.
In my book, he was never anything but a Philly. He's just
it was
a Philly.
weird, but no, Dodger Stadium is very. I have to say, it's fun. It's nice. I like it, even though I just talked about how I like the new ballpark, and this one is a little bit more cookie cutter. Really strange. You can't go into the outfield seats if you don't have a ticket for them. Like they're separated from the rest of the stadium.
Huh.
So you can't do a full loop walking around the stadium. You can only go back there if you have outfield bleacher seats tickets, which is kind of strange.
Interesting.
But anyway, up and down the East Coast, checked out old Yankee Stadium, new Yankee Stadium, because I was going to college up there at the time when the stadiums were changing over. There was really weird when new Yankee Stadium was going up. They were still playing in old Yankee Stadium, so like there were two Yankee Stadiums like right across from each other at one point.
So fitting.
Yeah, got to see Shea, which was nothing much to write home about, but Citi Field is very nice, even though I'm not a Mets fan. But Camden Yards, I would love to see the new Nationals Park. I haven't been down there yet.
It's pretty nice. I was there for a Billy Joel concert, not for a baseball game, but it was nice.
And Tropicana Field is probably the weirdest one on the list because it's got its own set of rules for when the baseball it's in a dome, and it's got catwalks across the ceiling, and if the ball hits it on a certain part of the catwalk, it's got its own set of rules for what to do in that situation. So it's a funny stadium. I got to walk on the field because it was kids run the bases, but if you were supervising a kid, you got to go down on the field. But they didn't know if you had a kid or not. I just pointed to some random kid, said that was my kid, because like Joe, I wanted to walk onto the field and look around at everything. So I got to walk on the field and look all around and look around the stadium. And it's funny because my family was in the stands. We were actually there to see Mike Trout and the Angels play the Rays because we don't get to see the Angels very much. And my family was in the stands and they didn't know that I was gone, and I was waving to them from down on the field.
Hey,
Did they see you?
No, they were shocked because there's all these little kids running around the bases, and then there's me just waving away. But I will say this: air-conditioned baseball stadiums, not a bad idea.
Oh my God, that air conditioning bill's got to be intense.
I mean, I love to see the baseball sunsets. There's like a whole thing, #baseball sunset, like where you have beautiful sunsets in these baseball parks, but air conditioning.
I gotta have the sky. Plus, like, then you can get like fireworks and all kinds of other cool, like bells and whistles for when things happen. When you have, I don't get me wrong. I see the appeal in air conditioning in all aspects of life, just because I can't stand the heat, and that's obviously when baseball is.
And get out of the kitchen.
Yeah. Have you guys been to the Hall of Fame? I think we all have, right?
Yes.
No, I have not.
Greg, you haven't been to the Hall of Fame? I've been to the Hall of Fame.
Greg, we're going.
You have never seen Joe happier.
Oh, we will leave. We will leave at 4 a.m., drive up there, spend the day, and then drive home.
Sounds
the
good.
happiest I've ever seen this man.
I'll sneak out, and somebody will never know.
I went twice last year. I went once where I magically came down with a terrible illness for 2 days.
It's the same thing I had.
Yeah, because my dad's work schedule doesn't work with my work schedule. So my dad, my brother, and I went up to Cooperstown. It was like our Father's Day. No, it was Christmas gift I got him for the three of us to go. And man, it was the coolest. It's the coolest place in the world because the whole town is just baseball, and it feels like almost like you would imagine like Andy Griffith, like land. Everything's just so pure, but it's baseball everywhere. So every store has every team of everything. You like the Tampa Bay Rays and you need a spatula for your grill, I got it.
Need a Philadelphia A's hat?
They got it. You need a National League umpire hat that I'm wearing, you got it. But the Hall of Fame itself is just for a person who loves baseball, and even if you're a casual fan and you just enjoy history or memorabilia, it's amazing. I joke about the 4 a.m. trip because later I was talking to Harry. I was like, we got to go. So I just was like, we'll go on a weekend. We'll go one day. We literally left my house, myself, Harry and Katie drove 4 a.m. and it was like, when was it? Like, there was snow on the ground.
It was November, like it was mid-November, and it was one of the coldest days of the year. Like I think it was like 12 degrees outside. When
and we left at 4 a.m., got up there around like 10, and just went and it was the greatest thing in the world.
So
San Diego chickens there.
Yeah.
What else do you need?
I went there in the year 2000. My brother had baseball camp up that way. So we're like, hey, let's go, when we go pick him up, let's stop at Cooperstown on the way back, for a couple reasons. A, they really wanted to go see the Hall of Fame. B, that was the year that the Peanut strip was ending. So they had I'm a huge Peanuts and Charlie Brown guy. So they had like an exhibit about all of the baseball strips they did, 'cause that was a big thing in that comic. So that was really cool. But like the actual Hall of Fame was really neat. As someone who's, like I said, at best a casual fan, it's still really cool to see all that stuff. I'm still able to really appreciate it. It's like, even if you just know like the general history, like it's really cool to talk about Jackie Robinson's display and like all of these different things. I'm actually related to a Hall of Famer in there, Sandy Koufax. He's somewhere on our family tree.
Casually dropping names.
Yeah, casually dropping one of the greatest.
It's not like I ever met him.
You may have heard of this guy.
I should drop a name. I don't know his name exactly, but my cousin co-created Zima.
Yeah, you told me about that. That's why you have an IMDb page, right?
But if you think about it, people go to like Natural History Museum and you're looking at, statues and artifacts from the past, and they're like, oh my God, that's amazing. That was, King Tut's tomb.
Yeah.
It's the same thing at the Hall of Fame. You're walking and you're like, oh my gosh, this is like the bat that Babe Ruth hit, his 60th home run. Or like, they have cleats from like, as a Giants fan, they have like a whole bunch of stuff from Willie Mays. And it's like, those are actual things that were actually worn by these players. And it's just, it is a historical part. It's amazing. The hall itself, where they get the plaques, is just, it's reverent, it's quiet. And you can see like, the coolest thing that I never knew is under each plaque of a player who was in like the armed forces and served like in World War II or anywhere, they put a little thing under each player that has that. So like you can see and you're like, oh my gosh, like here's Ted Williams, for instance,
That's really
had an amazing baseball career, but then he also stopped in the middle of it and, to protect our freedoms and stuff like that. It's just, I loved it. I've been itching to go back. In fact, Katie got me for Christmas, which, no lie, made me cry. She got me like a year subscription to be able to go there whenever I want. Obviously, COVID hit, so that screwed up a lot. But
yeah, sorry.
But my subscription in my name was put into baseball to protect baseball's future. So for me, I'm like, I haven't gone, but like my name's connected to the game that I love more than anything. So it blew me away. Like it still blows me away. Like I want to go so bad. Like I know they're open now, they reopened, but like
it's still like I'm still iffy about going to places that have opened up.
Yeah, it would be one thing if the Baseball Hall of Fame was around the corner, but
yeah,
it's 6-7 hours away.
Bit of a drive.
Yeah.
The one cool thing, that a lot of people don't realize is, especially when they see all the articles about like Barry Bonds will never be in the Hall of Fame, Mark McGwire, Sammy Sosa, they'll never be in the Hall of Fame. Pete Rose, they're still recognized, and those achievements are still recognized in the museum that's sort of above the Hall of Fame. Like the Hall of Fame itself is that plaque room. And one of the things that, as a baseball fan, it's really interesting to me, and you notice what an achievement it is to get on there, is to think of the entire history of baseball and the amount of players that made the Hall of Fame fits in, one room that's, I don't know, Joe, how big would you say that room is? I mean, you can.
Where the plaques are?
Yeah.
I would say it's smaller than Starrcade.
Yeah. Wow, really? It's been a long time since I've been there.
I mean, there are years where they don't elect anyone to the Hall of Fame. I mean, it's not a given for anybody. So it's definitely, you feel, when you first walk into that room, you feel this sense of like, I don't know, there's no music. It's just quiet reverence.
I think we should also mention it's not just players. There's like announcers and coaches and stuff in there too.
Yeah.
But Harry Callis is in there, right?
Yep.
Not in the plaque room, but yeah, he's recognized in the actual building.
Okay.
Sportscasters.
I know it's not just players that get inducted into the Hall of Fame.
Right.
Which is cool because
the museum is really cool if you are a fan of a team and you feel like, oh, well, they never won the World Series and they don't have like the all-time hits leader. So like, there's not going to be anything of relevance for my team. There's a room where they have like lockers for every team. And they do have things that were significant for your team, even if your team is a newer team. We were just joking because when we went in November, the Nationals locker was just pretty much like, oh, this guy had, like, a couple hits. He had like a 4-hit game or whatever. And like none of it was about the World Series that they had just won. They were going to have to redo the entire locker because they had just won the World Series. And
I have a lot of Bryce Harper stuff in there.
Right. They had old, players that aren't there anymore and stuff like that. So, there's something for everyone there.
I was going to say, because I know they had like interactive exhibits and stuff, because one of the things I did there is it would have a room with like a bunch of, it's like sound booth, but they have a bunch of game clips. And you can call your own games, essentially. Like there'll be a little script, but you can really just say whatever you want. But I remember thinking that was really cool because I'm always been into like AV and things like that. So it was really like I thought that was really cool. But like it's fun to like again at best I'm casual, but like it was still really cool to be there. So I guess this turned into a Baseball Hall of Fame podcast, and I guess the recommendation is to go.
It's just baseball in general.
Go to Cooperstown.
Yeah. I remember really, like, I could only be there for, like, a little bit, so I didn't get a chance to really explore the town. But I remember it was just, like, a really cute town. I kind of would like to go back there.
Yeah, it's like a road in, and there you are. I was thinking, I wanted to bring this up, and the Hall of Fame made me think of it. I was watching the Phils over the weekend, and I saw everyone's beloved Philadelphia, or Philly Phanatic.
Oh, yeah, the new Phanatic.
And I completely and utterly forgot that they have that lawsuit. So I was like, wait, what the heck? Oh, right, the lawsuit. That's why the Phanatic looks like a goofball now.
Oh, because he looked so dignified before.
Well, yeah, but I mean, it doesn't look right. I mean,
it's different, yeah.
I've seen the same Phanatic since I was for 30 some odd years, and here's this Phanatic with.
I feel like they just slapped some color on him, and like it doesn't look good.
No, for me, it's the arms. The arms are too like he's got like these weird like scale things, and
he's got weird wings. Like, I guess he's supposed to be a bird. Now that I kind of know what he's supposed to be, I'm like, that's not right.
I don't want to know what he's supposed to be.
He's a Philly.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, I guess
Phanatic.
I guess Gritty's just kind of become the Philadelphia in general mascot.
It pretty much sums up Philadelphia in a nutshell.
Yeah.
If I could dream of anything that was so Philadelphia, it would have been Gritty. Like, Gritty is the ultimate.
Eyes going this way.
So we can still claim him as our baseball mascot if we want. Until classic Phanatic can return.
I mean, I don't want to speak for Gritty, but he would murder the Phanatic if he wanted to be.
All right. So who would win in a fight, the Phanatic or Gritty? To be fair, one's from hockey, which is a much more physically aggressive sport.
I do want to give a shout out to the Fanatics Helper. That guy has been doing it since I want to say. It was like the early 90s that he took over.
For a long time.
Yeah, he's been at it for a while, and he's not getting any younger, and he's still climbing over rows of seats and people, and
he's doing it now,
running all around.
There.
Yeah, so wait, nobody's in there.
They've had the same actor for the Phanatic for that long? I figured it just changes every year.
No, it's been one guy, and he goes and he takes it very seriously. He wrote like an entire book about performing as the Phanatic and what the Phanatic would do and wouldn't do, and got
a whole backstory.
Tom Burgoyne, or I can't pronounce his last name, but it's like Burgoyne or something. But he's been there since like the early 90s, portraying the Phanatic, and he took over for a guy who had been doing it since like the 70s. So there's only really been 2 Phanatic performers. And I think maybe they have like a third guy who does like parties and like off-site events, he's the off-site Phanatic. But no, there haven't been many Fanatics in its history. And he's the best mascot in sports. He's been voted the best mascot in
I would say
sports.
that book's probably really interesting if they're taking it that seriously. But like there's a real art to like mascot work in general that I think is underappreciated like even if you go to like, Harry, you were on the theme park episode, even if you go to like Universal and like meet the people that are dressed up like the Simpsons, like they're still, because you can't really communicate, like you still have to be able to act with your body and through like this probably really hot and uncomfortable suit. But like you said, the Fanatic, you ever see him, he's like going ballistic all the time.
The Fanatic is the best mascot in sports. Like I joke about, like I love Gritty.
I love Gritty too, but yeah.
But the Fanatic is you think of mascots, and that's literally the first one I think anybody would think of first. If you have any,
he is the gold standard. Gritty still has to live up to him.
There is a mascot, or there's a Fanatic costume in the Hall of Fame because he's that well known.
There's only two: Fanatic and everyone's favorite, the San Diego Chicken.
Wow.
I thought you said Mr. Mitt.
The San Diego Chicken is in the worst possible spot though, because Fanatic's in this part where it's about ballparks and it's great. The San Diego Chicken, so you going in, it's right next to like the part all about
is it next to Morgana the Kissing Bandit?
Oh, it's all
it's
all over by like where like the Latin American countries and how they are. But on this side, the first thing you walk through is them talking about like race and stuff that in baseball's past, like the Jackie Robinson and the Josh Gordon and then you like turn the corner after seeing this reverent like bad part of baseball and how like oh, I can't believe America was like this, I'm so glad it changed with baseball, and then you turn the corner and San Diego Chicken's right in your face. It's like the worst. It's like it's not what I want to see right away. Like I want to I got to be in the mood. Like, oh yes, like it's what they did and the amazingness of Jackie Robinson breaking the color barrier, and like I mean I'll give the Dodgers credit there. Branch Rickey, I'll give him the credit. Like
the Phillies had a very bad track record with integration. They were like one of the last teams to integrate, and
but San Diego Chicken. And it's not even you see the San Diego Chicken facing this way. You smack right into the backside of the San Diego Chicken. It's awful.
Oh, you didn't even see his face first?
No. You see the back side of the San Diego Chicken. Who wasn't even a mascot for any team. He was just the San Diego Chicken.
It's just some guy in San Diego who dressed up like a chicken and just ran around.
It's majestic. It's beautiful. But he's no Fanatic.
No.
So I have a question for the panel. Do you guys, speaking of like ballpark experiences, do you have a promotion or like ballpark day or night or something that is your favorite? I
mean, I wish the surf was still around because they would have dog days this summer where you can bring your dog to the park. But when I used to go to that, I didn't have a dog. I have one now. I think that'd be fun to do. But no, I always like the nights where you go and you get something. Like now they do a lot of licensed things. Like, oh, it's Star Wars night, so get Darth Vader bobblehead dressed up like a Phillies player or something. A Dollar Dog night, I guess, is the best one because then it's the only time I'll actually buy ballpark food.
Yeah, like I would say, like Dollar Dog is probably my favorite, but like I don't go to them all that often because it's a bunch of like college kids acting like college kids do, and that's fine, that's what they do. But I love Saturday night and whenever it does happen, Sunday night baseball. Like I just go to the park on a weekend, Saturday night. Even Friday's not too bad. It's like weekend too, but like I love going to like weekend baseball, especially Sunday night. And that's so infrequent that it's just like cause most of the games are afternoon games.
Yeah. There's one basically in the league.
ESPN, I think ESPN still has it.
Sundays with Schmidt.
But that's probably my two favorite. It'll be like Dollar Dog night or of course, Jewish Heritage Night, of course.
Yeah.
No, but they're probably my two favorite, like a Sunday night baseball game or Dollar Dog Night, if I can go and not be annoyed by college kids.
I guess I haven't gone to many. I remember one time going and with my dad and brother and realized it was Roberto Clemente night, which was like Latin Heritage Night, which was great because Pittsburgh runs through our blood, so that was cool. I have always liked, and watching it on TV, and it actually the year, because the Phils haven't played this week because of the pandemic and the Marlins being dumb and not containing their 18 players now that are
so
sick.
Angry about that.
I watched.
I saw that news and I was like, of course the Phillies got sick and are getting wiped out from this thing. That's just being a Philadelphia fan.
Yeah.
No, the Phillies got wiped out. The Marlins got wiped out.
Marlins got wiped out. The Phillies are just
They're
somehow
innocent bystanders. Yeah.
But then I thought the Phillies also got sick.
no one's sick on the Phils yet.
Well, knock on wood.
The Marlins have 15 players sick. 15.
They're up to 16. One more
16
today.
players and 2 coaches. Yeah.
Yeah,
Go ahead.
But I love the, and any team can do it. I love watching the retro stuff. Like I love the old uniforms.
Oh yeah.
The other day this week was a year from the one I know you went to, Harry, with the maroon shirts.
The Saturday night special.
I love it.
Maroon, right, Harry?
Yeah.
It was maroon tops, maroon bottoms. They
That's
wore
my
them
favorite
one time
zip.
in their history.
Full zip.
And they got destroyed. And for some reason, last year, the Phillies were like, you know what? Remember those uniforms we wore one time and got destroyed? Let's do it again. So they did, and they got destroyed again. They lost that game so bad.
I love that one. I love the powder blue ones. The powder blue is like probably my favorite.
I love it in all teams because they wear their old uniforms, and it's just neat to see the history. Because even when they got beat this last year with that look, the Braves who they were playing were their uniforms from the 70s. And that's just cool. Like, it shows, because baseball is so history driven and now even like fashion driven. I mean, like, we're all wearing a different hat. You know, like Harry, on yours, I could see 2 different Phillies hats. You know, Greg's wearing a different Phillies hat. I'm wearing a thing. So like, you see all this stuff, but to see where it like started and see where things are is really neat. I know, like, I think
Astros uniforms.
Oh, so good. I know Cincinnati last year did like multiple, like, they went from like the beginning of their uniform through the whole year. So like a different week, it would be like the retro week, and it'd be like, so my dad grew up back then, and he loves, which was weird being in Pittsburgh. He like, it was like, I forget when, some 61 or 62, I can't remember what, but when Frank Robinson was playing in Cincinnati, he loved that white hat with the red C. And like, they wore that. And with my dad, like, you couldn't buy those hats. Like, now we can buy these hats online anyway. So like, my dad's grandmother made him a Cincinnati hat with the red C.
That's cool.
For Christmas, my brother and I decided to try to buy him one. And of course, he gave us his head size, or my brother found the right head size in one of his hats, and it doesn't fit him. So, and trying to like get that hat again has been tough, but.
Yeah, seeing the old throwbacks with like the stirrups, the high socks and the stirrups. You know, some players still wear the stirrups, but
brings me back to my youth.
Yep.
But Harry, what's yours?
Mine. So the Phillies. Of course, there's the bobblehead night, which is classic. Getting a bobblehead is awesome. Sometimes don't always look like the players because they obviously outsourced it to some like company to do these that have probably never seen baseball, had one picture of the player to make, and that was it. But, you know, always a classic, bobbleheads. But the Phillies, and I don't know if they're unique in doing this, they do a photo night, which was this year, it was the all maroon night, where they allow the fans to come onto the field, into the outfield, and they rope it off, and the players come around and they'll stop and take pictures with the fans, and you get really close. Cool. Yeah, you get really close to pretty much all the players. They, you know, some of the bigger guys like Bryce Harper last year, they kind of shepherded him along. He couldn't really stop at each different group, but you get a lot of face time. The announcers come around, the broadcasters, the coaches, and I don't know if, like I said, I don't know if every team does that. It's called Team Photo Night, and it's a really cool promotion. And I just have a lot of like great memories. My sister was like shaking hands with Cole Hamels back in like the heyday of like the 08-09 Phils during that promotion, and it was just a really good time. I think it's a really great thing that they do for the fans.
And I don't know how I forgot about this, but I love firework nights, especially like in Major League, because like a lot of the minor league teams have like every night, but like Major League teams only have it on 4th of July, and there's other special nights sometimes, but fireworks night's also a fun night too.
Yeah. So you mentioned when the Phillies, remember when they won the World Series? I have a story related to that where they kind of ruined my life for a day.
Oh no.
So I was in South Carolina visiting family. I was supposed to come back the day after the game where they won, but it rained out halfway through it.
Right.
So they had to finish it the next night. The game was going on as I was landing at the airport, and it let out as I landed. And you have to drive past the stadium, so I got stuck in traffic for like 5-6 hours.
Yeah.
Oh no.
And and I couldn't listen to it because I was on the plane. So I was like, well, otherwise if I was stuck in the car, I could listen to it on the way home. But like the game had ended by the time we went out. So that was fun. I mean, I'm glad they won the World Series. I'm happy for all the Philadelphia fans at the time. But I was very annoyed.
Yeah,
I almost failed a class in college my senior year because of that parade. I was huge, the Phillies, especially going away and living in New York for a while. Like, I don't know, my sports team regionalism, like I just kind of was even more of a fan of the Phillies and obnoxious about it. And so they won the World Series, and I was in Staten Island, and it was a Friday was going to be the parade. It was Halloween Day of 2008. And I had a class that met once a week on Fridays, and that was it. And so I said, there's no way I'm missing this parade. Like this could never happen again in my lifetime. Who knows? So I wrote the professor, and I was like, Professor, I can't come in. And like, I just straight up gave him the reason. I was like, the Phillies just won the World Series and I'm going to the parade. And he was like, no, you're not. You're not missing my class. We only meet, so many times a year because it's a once a week class. You can't go. And I told my friend, I said, look, I don't care. I'm going to this parade. And like, luckily we straightened it out after I got to go to the parade. It was a great time, but, and it was one of my highlights of my life, one of the best days of my life.
I know I mentioned earlier, my brother's a big Cubs fan. All my life, I was hearing like, they ever win the World Series, I'm going to Chicago and I'm going to the parade. Obviously, they finally won the World Series. He was going to go, but like, for whatever reason, his transportation fell through at the last minute, so he couldn't go. He was so disappointed. But what was nice about them winning the World Series is it was the easiest Christmas I've ever shopped for him.
Oh, yeah.
Just went on MLB.com and bought anything that said World Series.
The merchandise is ready to go after right after the last pitch. It's just it's there. It's already up.
I didn't get to go to the parade.
We tried to watch it with him, but like he was so into intense, he had to be away from everybody. So I ended up watching it with my dad, and like we were rooting for them for him, because what was it, 150 years?
That's the thing. Like the wins that break a big like losing streak or a franchise drought in championships is just it's so much more. Like, I don't know, if the Phillies won again, like I'd be happy, but it wouldn't match the same level of excitement as that one.
Because you let all the air out of the balloon,
Yeah, it had been 25 years since like the entire city had won any championship in any of the four sports.
That's how it was with the Giants when they won. Like, I watched their parades online, and which is not the same, but like when they won the first one, I was so excited because they lost that one earlier in the 2000s against the Rally Monkey Angels. And I was so upset at that because they lost game 6. They were still game 7, but it's just like the 86 Mets, they pulled off game 6 with the Bill Buckner thing, but they still played a game 7. But I didn't get to go to the parade, the Phillies parade. I wanted to go so bad. But at the time I was living with my parents and they were getting construction done on the house and someone needed to be there.
Oh,
and
no.
I was going to go to the parade, but my jerk of a brother went with his friend. So I was stuck at home. And I'm like, you're the football guy. I'm the baseball guy. Why am I not going to this thing? But I watched it. I watched the whole thing. I watched, I got to watch, Utley, world
Drop
chance.
the F-bomb, yeah,
which was amazing. And then watching the weirdest one with the parades is as a Giants fan, I watched it on there. In there, almost like they're like, the Ricky Pitalico kind of feel for the parade. They had, of all people, celebrity Rob Schneider. And I was like, why is Rob Schneider there? They can't find any other San Francisco Giant fan that could sit there. But no, Rob Schneider's there. Thank you, Rob. But I mean, like, I loved it. And I watch every World Series no matter who's in it. I'm happy when certain teams don't
once
win.
you get to the postseason in any game, because then that's like the best of the best and they kind of all need to win. That's when every sport gets great. Because I don't follow every sport every season, but like I watch the playoff games of for football and baseball especially. Like those games, because like I said, I'd like the Phillies to win, but like I don't really care. I just want to watch good games. So that's usually when things are good. I just want the Yankees to lose. That's all I want. In football, I want the Patriots to lose. If either of those things happen, I'm happy.
So that was one of the things that made baseball really special, and unlike some of the other leagues, was like the other leagues took like half the field of teams and pretty much put them in the playoffs. And this year, baseball's doing that now. But they only had, I think it was like the division winners at a time, and then they added the wild card, and then they added the second wild card. I don't know how you guys feel about like the expansion of the playoffs as it's been over the time, but I will say the one and done play-in game is exciting to watch. Whether or not that's baseball, because you play an entire 162 game season for it to come down to one game is really rough. But,
especially when they play there's the lowest they have is a 2-game set, and that's very rare or semi-rare. Like it's usually 3. At the very least, it should be a 3-game set for the play-in. But I get why they do it. It's all about the money. But no, I don't. There's too many teams in most sports, I think, that go to playoffs. Like it doesn't feel special when half the league gets in. It feels like a mediocre team can get in, and I'm not saying mediocrity shouldn't get in, but it's also like you should be better than average to get to the playoffs and earn a spot. Especially like I know this pops in football a lot is when a team has a better record but a worse record team gets in because of the division they're in. I know it stinks and it's kind of silly, but I also I sort of like that where like you're in the division that you're in, and be good, bad, or otherwise. There are divisions that stink and there's divisions that are fantastic. But I just don't like it when a 500 team or even like a couple games that are 500 gets in. Like that's my personal opinion, and I get if your team is Phillies or Giants or Pittsburgh or whatever team you like, because you get more of the team you want to watch. But I just think it kind of lessens the playoffs and the specialness. But it's also kind of fun seeing a mediocre team go through the playoffs and get a hot streak and win. So there are pros to it too. Just me personally, I don't like seeing mediocre teams getting in, especially with baseball. There's so much time for you to do what you have to do. But then on the other end of it, it's like you already know you're out of the you're already know you're out of playoffs sometimes by the halfway point because you're just a bad team.
You lose it.
Yeah.
I wish I don't know if 16 teams is what we need. Like 8 on each side. I feel like that's too much. Especially in this shortened season. I get they want to try it. But like they're already crunched for numbers and times when they can have anything anyway. So why would you add more? Look what's going on now. The Marlins are missing a whole week. Now, that might not affect the Marlins, but what happens if the Marlins get on a hot streak when they come back and they're at the end of the season, they don't make it in because they miss a full week of games? It's like it doesn't make sense. I wish I get the excitement of a play-in game when they had it before, but it's baseball. Baseball, everything is about a series. You never really hear, the Phils are coming to town and they're only going to play one game tonight. Yeah. Like they're there for 2 or they're there for 3.
Make a game sometimes. That's it.
Yeah, and you know what? And that's the problem. We get a play-in game, and it's that close thing. Like you can look like the one year the Pirates made it, and they were a great team. They just fell like a game short of winning the division, and they went into the playoff game, and they haven't been in the playoffs since like '92. And they they run cold one game. And they're out. And then that whole team is gone and they're not anywhere near there anymore. Play a 3-game set. You want excitement, it's the 3-game set. Don't take any days off. The team with the better record gets 3 games at home. And whoever wins, wins.
It's not really, this isn't baseball per se either, but like, what do you think about doing a doubleheader?
I love doubleheaders.
So like in the play-in game would be, it's a series of 3, but then it would be like you play 2 games that one day. So it could possibly be like,
a one-night thing if one team wins both games.
The only problem I'd have with that is you're going to field a different team because there's no way the catcher is going to play both games.
Correct, and that's why I think some of the strategy is
unless
like I think it will make some neat strategy. But I get what you're saying. Like I don't think I would like it, but I think there'll be some neat strategy in it. Like
you're not going to have your best team out there. I think.
No, you're not. Both teams will be like at half, or both teams like half strength because you're gonna have different pitchers, different bullpen. But
it almost makes that first game more important, which is what you want. It's also tough in the playoffs is that those games are in September, October. It's colder weather. people aren't home, so the day games are tough. I love day baseball, and it's great. I think during this season, like during the summer, put on a day game and an evening game. I know White Sox in Cleveland did it the other day where they played a game. It ended at like 7, and the second game was at like 7:40.
Mm-hmm.
So it's like you have 40 minutes to wait, but you don't have to worry about right now. You don't have to worry about turnover and cleaning the stadium and getting people in and out for tickets because there's no one there.
Yeah.
So I feel like you could get more bang for your buck, especially now with the summer. If you look, the only day games right now are Saturday and Sunday. Everything else is evening. And with basketball coming back, basketball is going to be on every night. You want to have people watching the game. People are off. People are home during the summer. Put on a day baseball game here and there. Sure, the players have to get there a little early because of protocols and testing, but it's baseball. They do, business person specials all the time. You could squeeze more games in and have more back end support because what they're doing with the 16-team playoff is you're running those 60 games in 66 days. And if there's a weather concern and something gets canceled,
the
Marlins situation, I mean, hopefully it's an anomaly and it's only this one time, but who knows? Like,
look at the Marlins affected the Phillies. They affected the Yankees. I mean, just because the Phillies and Yankees don't have anybody that tested,
it stumbles down.
Yeah, just there's a lot of people missing games right now.
Yeah,
and there's not a lot of time built into the schedule to make those games up either.
Right.
There's only like 3 off days.
And if you're so worried about health and safety of pitchers with pitch counts and arms and player safety in general, you're squeezing all of this in and giving yourself no back end balance. Because if you get into September, who the heck knows what kind of weather you're getting? You could lose 2 full weeks of different teams with any sort of weather, and then what happens? You have no contingency plan of this backup.
And not only that, I mean, for what it's worth, people get more sick during the wintertime, whether you get the flu, common cold, COVID could be even worse. Who knows? But there's a lot of problems going into the colder weather with baseball and football, but baseball especially. It's like, what are you going to do?
Yeah. So as far as the expanded playoffs, I'm okay with it for this season because I feel like the more teams you let in at the end of the year, the less of an impact and less of an importance your regular season has. And this season's already kind of all kinds of messed up because of the 60 days, the COVID, everything. So if you're going to mess up a season, do it now. And there's only 60 games that you're really impacting. When it's a full 162 game season and you're bringing in 16 playoff teams, then I have a little bit more of a problem with it because I feel like those 162 games don't matter as much, and you're going to have all kinds of teams making it in. Now on the flip side, I'm wondering if this is going to make a lot of those bottom feeder teams with owners who don't want to spend money actually want to compete, because that's a big problem in baseball right now too, is like the perennial tanking teams. And that, by June, you're so far out of it that you're not making any trades. You're not making any effort to put a better product on the field for your fans, for your team. It's just, I'm just going to collect my paycheck because I own a baseball team. I think that needs to change too. And whether that's a salary floor with a salary cap, I don't know. But I think that's a problem that baseball needs to address.
Yeah, I've kind of always said salary floor and cap would help baseball a lot because the teams that spend a lot of money always are consistently always at the top, and teams that don't are always at the bottom. So it's like you said, they're the perennial losers.
And
it's one thing to lose. It's one thing to lose on bad luck. It's another thing entirely to lose because you're not even trying. You're not trying to improve your team at all.
Because there's no even playing field almost.
What I think one of my things I could that jumps to mind immediately, and I'm sure both you and Joe can speak to it more than I could. But I remember that one year in the '90s when the Marlins won, and it's it was this huge surprise. And then the next year they traded everybody away. They couldn't afford them. But they couldn't afford them. It's like one of those circles, They couldn't afford them because nobody was coming to see them. But you don't give the team enough time to get a fan base when they're good. But that next year they just got rid of everybody and they stunk. So it's that's a huge problem. It's a huge problem.
Look at what their outfield would be now if they kept Stanton, if they'd kept Yelich, if they kept, it's like
Azuna.
I mean, they traded like you said, Greg. They did the exact same thing just in the last years where they had started out those players, but they can't pay them. And they had a new ownership group that came in and leveraged. They had took all this debt out to buy the baseball team in the first place that they're not going to spend anymore to put a product on the field.
Speaking of that, as a quick aside, how about Mahomes buying part of the Royals? Ridiculous.
I think it's great.
Crazy. Like, he's like, I made so much money now that I'm just going to buy part of the Royals.
I mean,
buying a baseball team in a pandemic, apparently is a very lucrative thing. For months, the owners were saying how they're going to be poor, they're going to be out of money, and here you have people coming in to buy baseball teams.
Yeah, it's a buyer's market. Yeah,
and you got the Dodgers giving $300 and some odd million to Mookie Betts.
Yeah.
All those months of crying poor, I don't get it.
It's what the thing with you were talking about, like all those teams, the bottom dwellers trying to like maybe compete and trade. Problem is, okay, so you have 16 teams going in, and there are a definite number of bad teams. Royals, Marlins. My Giants are not very good. I watched the game. I'm like, I don't know who any of these people in the outfield are.
But you got Gabe.
Gabe Kapler.
That's all you need.
Again, like I said.
Darren Ruff.
Yeah, but they don't have anybody. But like these teams, there's going to be, since there's 16 teams going in the playoffs, there's not how much of a seller's market are you going to get? Like, because you're going to have these teams like the Marlins. Are they going to trade off all these young players that they have that are good? The Giants maybe are okay because they got older veterans that could fill in, but they're top heavy. Like the contracts are ridiculous. That's why they're awful. I mean that, and